with what we're seeing. Seeing is not always believing.
It's a very good point, isn't it? I'm not actually in the forest.
Right.
Because of course, if you follow the rules, you're kind of in it, aren't you? You're just in the matrix, just sort of doing, following the rules, following the rules. So I think, yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, interesting way to start. I mean, I know that was a key element of Carlos Castaneda's books, right? Was this idea of, we'll call it just robotic behavior. And this idea that certain things have been programmed in us, certain ways, certain thoughts, certain ways of behaving. And as long as we keep following the groove, stay on the record groove, nothing will ever be different. Nothing will ever be seen. Nothing will ever be. So we take the context. If whatever this place is, and we can try to discuss what we think it is or it isn't, it at least does behave by, yeah, like you say, sort of standard rules, or at least a standard overlay. And as long as you're locked into it, in my view now, it means you've also locked in possibilities. And that was what Castaneda's point. The more you started doing the opposite, the more you started behaving in a non-normal manner, meant different possibilities and doorways would have to open themselves up to you. They're always there, but as long as we're locked in the record groove, they can't be noticed and seen.
Definitely. That's a big theme of what I say, this whole judgment, judging things as right or wrong. It cuts you off from possibility, doesn't it, really? It keeps you in that circle, that going around in the repetition.
Yeah. And at least I know for myself, when I was, back when the world was sort of normal and you were still living like a regular person here. But even still, once I started doing anything that was not expected, and it could be anything, it was just like walking down the street and then just jumping unexpectedly, or turning around, or walking the other direction for no reason, even though I know I'm going to the store this way, I would just turn around and walk the other way. Your mind, at least in my case, my mind would just stop. The normal mind would give up, because now you weren't doing what it was expecting you were doing. And that created a freeing moment. Now, that was fine when I was alone, but as soon as I was with people, if I did the same thing, say I was walking down the street and I did the jump with people, they would begin to get very concerned, because now I'm not operating in the box of me that they have in their mindset. So this was also two really interesting things to see how that would operate when I was alone, how that operated with people, and how much our persona is controlled by the views of others.
Isn't it? I mean, it's almost like, all these other people are sort of running the program, and you, by jumping, you're a glitch, and the program sort of reacts and wants to get rid of the glitch. It's like, no, that's not part of the program. What do you? And because this is, this is crazy people, right? Like, we're taught this through our lives, people who walk down the street and jump, or who walk backwards, or who are talking to themselves, or who act strangely, or who, do things that aren't normal, right, or expected. They're dubbed the crazy ones. But are they, or are they the ones that are really starting to see through the matrix? Because everyone else is just obviously clearly in a program, and they just don't understand that they are.
And it's these things that are, it's so difficult to talk about with people whose day-to-day world is always the same, that they haven't had experiences where you have to go, what the hell was that? The world doesn't behave like that. And the average person would just dismiss it. I'll give an example right away here. It was a couple of nights ago, staring out my window was a lake with mountains in the background. And it was one of these nights where the moon was really full, or starting to get full. It's not full yet, right? I know, but it's really full. And so there's light, and I noticed the light was streaming down on the lake in a very small line. So one small part of the lake right in front of the moon is illuminated. It's bright. It's like, I'm looking, this is beautiful. It's stunning. But wait a minute, the whole rest of the lake is dark. And that's impossible if
the moon is where it's supposed to be, because the angle of the light refraction, it should, the whole lake and everything, we should all be lit. How can just a tiny little stream be lit up? Now, people will, I'm not the only one who's ever seen this and has looked at it and go, that's weird. But if you don't instantly have this unquestioning reality, or reality is strange, you just, oh yeah, well, I guess it's something to do with the clouds or whatever. Isn't that nice? And back to your day. So that's also part of all this that we're talking about, that if a person has not had some experiences that have made them stop and then really had to start questioning or thinking, this stuff just gets passed over. And so nothing, even though you get the glitch, nothing happens from it.
Like I say, now it's all electronic, it's click, click, it's all hype, listen to me. And yeah, it's stop. I mean, this is a big thing, isn't it? People, they're not thinking. And it's like you say, when they see things out of the ordinary, they don't want to think. They'd rather explain it away and not have to worry about it. You know, the whole ignorance is bliss, right?
Right.
That big lie.
Right. Like, I mean, I'm sure, like, you've had a glitch in the matrix experience. I've had glitches in the matrix experience, you know. How did you handle it when it happened? Like, for example, if you think of one of your glitches in the matrix, how did you respond to it when it was happening and after it happened? Just out of, for all of us, curiosity.
How did I?
Yeah.
I've taught myself not to judge. I just take things in, and I kind of go into thinking, what's the message, and that's really sort of where I go. I'll definitely stop and ponder that. I mean, that's, you know, and I've spent, I think, quite a few years sort of training myself to do that. Because it's like when you were talking about the internet, when I saw the internet, I was like I was just so happy because I didn't have to read through books forever. But to me, it's like I can get information here, and I can get another opinion here, and another opinion here, and another point of view there. And so so it's how you use it, isn't it? Like, if you go and you're getting information and then using that to get a perspective, then it's a good thing. But if you're just being led, which is, so it's, yeah, when things are out of the ordinary, I'm always looking at, yeah, what's it speaking to me? Why is this happening? What's the bigger message?
The first for people would be, yes, to see that there's many layers to reality, and reality is talking to you. Even if you don't like things right now, and even if things are really hard and challenging, there are still pieces of information that's being presented, like, just for you personally, not like for all of us, for humanity. I mean, you personally. And it's being aware enough to see, you know, it's so hard to describe. Did the bird just fly by because it was a bird and flying by, or was that specifically flown by as a message for me? You know, these little tiny things that if you don't have the awareness to even possibly look for them, you never see them.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a big point, isn't it? Because, you know, if you live in a world where you're getting messages and birds are flying by for certain reasons, and things are happening, then that's like a world of wonder, isn't it? You know, it's
right.
It's so different to being in a 3D physical world that's, you know, if anything's random, it's just random. You know, there's no reason behind it. It's just complete random. You know, it's all these rules and all this kind of stuff. It reminds me of that saying, you know, be in the world, but not of the world. You know, so understand that you're here, but you're not part of it. So you can change it. You can look around and interpret it the way you want to. But most people are of the world. They're just a construct of it. They just, you know, like you said before, just repeating the motions daily. And of course, if with no new ideas or actions, there's no new anything. There's definitely no new growth.
And right, and even when it's happening worldwide, like our current world insanity, one of the first things that happened with the world insanity that I asked when I started seeing it was, why now? Why year? Because it started in 2020, early 2020. So why 2020, not 2018 2026. It's not, again, like I say, it's not random. It's not accidental that it's starting at the particular time it is. So what's the message? What's the message that our current experience is going through this now? And that was something that I took tried to get a lot of time with, to try to figure out, because it's not random. Is it hiding something? Is it like, what is the overlay it's trying to lay into from the standpoint of the totality of what we know as existence?
And obviously 2020, and like everyone was talking about 2020 vision, which is something I see popping up all the time, that with this AI, there seems to be some other good AI that's sort of in there. It just pops things out that they just don't seem to fit, but they're these messages. Like I don't think that, the cabal would have had, let's give everyone 2020 vision of what we're doing as their reason to pick that year, if you know what I mean. But yet we still got that message come through. So it's interesting. But I mean, I was thinking last night, I've thought since this started that I think they've had to go too fast. I think they've been pushed, and this is all coming out. I think they expected to roll this out over 5 or 6 years or longer, and they've had to do it quicker. And I think it's because of what went on in the USA. It just sort of came to me the other day, obviously, if you're the cabal, the wrong person was in power for 4 years. So that kind of put them back 4 years. And unless, of course, he's part of the whole system. It depends how you see it. But yeah, I don't see their plans working that well. But when I say that, obviously, we had a chat before of, if the system does collapse, then that really goes into their favor as well, doesn't it?
Which is something I've known for a long time, which is that, of course, not every human I see on the street is human. There's all sorts of different, whether they be angelic beings, whether they be sometimes, like you say, these messages that are coming towards us, and other times there just seem to be the equivalent of what you would call like a non-player character in a video game. They're just there to populate the world, to make it look bigger and richer and more complete than it really is, but they're empty shells is the best way to describe it. And now we're starting to wonder, as we've gone through these 2 years, just how many empty shells have we been dealing with and are dealing with? Because I don't think the average human can be as non-thinking and as non-empathetic to everything as so many have shown us to be. So many people are revealing themselves as literally non-living creatures almost. And now we have to wonder, okay, how many of us are there really? How many of us are there really in this realm?
Yeah.
Here's a big matrix question. How many of us really are? But
exactly. I mean, yeah, is that the 144,000 even? Is it that little? Because and this is obviously a topic that's been discussed a lot over the last, sort of 18, 24 months.
Yeah.
And it's a good point, because, my whole life, and no doubt you and everyone watching this, you have these questions of, why don't people get it? This is obvious stuff. And even if I explain stuff to people, they don't get it. How can they not get it? And also the empathy thing. How can people be just not be aggressive? That's obviously bad, but also not even understand the ramifications of their actions, both in this life and the next. Like, they do seem like different beings, don't they? Like, and it's like you're talking to aliens sometimes, or so I mean, another thing that's happening now is a lot of people are hooking up into groups, and these groups, these people, like they're not near each other, like, that's like, one in every country of the world kind of thing. So yeah, how many of us are really down here?
It's an interesting question, isn't it? That, of course, 20 years ago, I thought about it, but I never really thought about it in detail. After my experience of dying in the canyon, I did start to see more of reality as like a theater or a stage play. And I would often sit with the person who had who had died with me, we had the same experience together. We would sit at a coffee shop and we'd watch people walking by, and more seeing them like extras in a movie. Now, of course, at that time believe that each individual person then was having their own personal movie experience. So we were just extras in their movie, right? That was at the time how we described it, that there was like 1,000 personal movies going on, but so many of these people were just extras in ours. They were there just to populate the world, and we were never going to interact with them. But now I start to step back and say, was that incorrect thinking? How did I know each and every person I was watching by was indeed a person having their own individual movie experience? Maybe they're just extras in the movies of, I mean, this stuff really begins to, I mean, it can drive you crazy, of course, if you go into it too deeply or allow yourself to be freaked out by it, as opposed to, and that happens to a lot of people. And that's something I've had to talk about, particularly with conspiracy theory people. When they were digging into it years ago, I had to tell them, you need to take breaks. Because if you go into this full bore 24 hours a day, you're literally going to go nuts, because your whole foundation of what you thought your reality was is going to start dropping out. And if you're not prepared for that, it's going to cause great distress. So it's another message to everyone out there. If you're going into these topics really, really hard, please take some breaks. Take some breaks. Take some time to just do something non-related to this at all, so that you have some balance in this, so you don't just drop immediately.
Definitely. And that's what's going on at the moment with all this. The media is one thing, but social media is another. Like, it's almost worse than media, I think, at this point. All these, and these are all people who call themselves truthers, but what we're getting is the story, right? Their story, whoever they are, the cabal, whatever you want to call them. We're getting their story 24 hours a day by all these people who claim to be truthers. But what they're doing is making everyone focus on what the perpetrators want. And when we do that, we create their reality, right? So I think now more than ever, we need to be really, careful of who we are and who we're following. We need to know what's going on, but it's the time. If all you're doing is going through all the bad stuff and, oh my God, they're doing this and food shortages and rah, then that's not going to put you in a good place to see the world. I mean, yeah, we need to know what's going on, but at the same time, we need to be creating our own stories. Okay. If they're going to change the rules, first of all, like you said before, we should not comply. Like, sorry, they're not the rules we agreed to. But then when, more than 50% of the people do say, oh yeah, we'd love to change the rules, then you've got to understand that, you've got to step out and I guess in trust, again, back to the creator, trust that, you're here for a reason, you're here to do something, creator's got your back, and whatever, problems you face, there's always solutions. And that's really where we need to be focusing, because this is the whole game, is them getting to focus, us getting us to focus on what they want. So the fear, all this kind of stuff, but also what they want to implement. Everyone's running around going, oh my gosh, and they got these numbers of how many people should have apple juice in their arms, and that's just creating something in the ether that's going to make that happen.
Belief that the realization, this middle realization that in some way my thought does influence my reality, and my belief structure, it does actually influence my day-to-day experience. From the simple point, if someone is at the simplest level, if you're having a good day, life tends to go a little smoother. If you're feeling shitty, life tends to go shitty with you. But I think it goes too far when you start to think, I can control everything. That if I think it, I'll make it, I'll force it to happen. And this is where I think a lot gets into trouble, where again, you're not stepping back and saying, there are rules to this game. There are rules to this reality. There are certain structures that are in place, whether we like them or not. They're here one way or another, and we have to sort of know what's the limit. Because this is just my personal opinion from years of playing with this stuff. But in my opinion, if you put a lot of time and energy into trying to fix something that can't or does not want to be fixed, you're just wasting your energy. It's better to know exactly more the rules of the game, what's bendable and what's not bendable, what's changeable and what's not changeable, in order to place the energy in the best possible use. Then it has value. And I think that's where a lot of this gets mixed up. People are trying to push for something, you know, I could try as long as I want to be the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. I can put as much energy and focus in that as I want. It's not going to happen. Like, it's just not going to happen. No matter what I do, except in my own little fantasy world, it's not going to.
Yep.
So, what
Yeah.
can I put my energy in that can happen? So, I think that's also a part of this.
Yeah.
We share this information.
Yeah, that bad realistic word, got to be, you have to be realistic, because I think, a lot of the people that, they're so heavenly minded, they're no earthly good, that they don't realize we are in a 3D reality. No matter how you want to, clearly we're in a 3D reality, right? So part of the experience has to be in 3D. You can't sit and just think. I mean, ideas are great and definitely visualize, but action, if we don't act, nothing's going to happen, and we know it's a movie, right? So we have to act. I suppose it's how you look at that as well, isn't it? Are they challenges, or are they roadblocks? Do we make mistakes, or do we have mistakes? I mean, because it's how you see, because it's like, we all live in creating our own reality, a little reality, earth, world, bubble, whatever it is. And then we've got the collective reality, which we then can influence. We all influence that as a whole. But I forgot where I was going there. But but it's all to do with this. The way I see it, and maybe I'm just a weirdo. I don't see it as that hard. It's kind of, you get the picture, right? You have the intuition from the ether that gives you, thought or ideas that you turn into pictures, and then that turns into action, right? It's like the God, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. There's always three, right? And we have the three minds, and we have the three bodies. So I see it as more of a process of bringing stuff from, ideas, new ideas from outside, from, whatever you want to call it, God, the ether, the Akashic records, and then through action, bringing them into the world. And that is manifestation, right? Just as much as if you could make manna fall from heaven by clicking your fingers, that's still manifestation.
Having to make a choice always in your life based on, if I do this, I'll keep living, but is it worth it? Or should I live in a particular way that is right for me, even though it may move me closer to my impending death? These are really deep questions that are normally ignored by people, but to me, that is where you start truly living your deepest life, when you don't ignore it, when you embrace it, and still find ways to live in an empowered way with it.
Yeah, I mean, definitely things have to be done in the now. I'll just reiterate that. That's where everything lies. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, right? Death is always there. How much time do we have, and what are we here for? I mean, I guess this, with this society, we've been taught that a good life is the one that has the most pages, aren't we? That they kind of say, well, it's a good life because they hit 80 and all this kind of stuff. But what about the dude who changed the world and died at 35? We're told that that's a tragedy. Oh, he died so young, he could have done so much more. Well, he, really, that's backwards. One lived a successful life, one didn't necessarily. And, we're looking at it the wrong way. I think, yeah, maybe we need to, it's much more about what you do and what you leave behind. That is what your life is. It's not time spent, putting footprints on the ground down here. That's no judgment of the quality of your life, for sure. So yeah, I think if we just and that's got to do with not being scared of death, hasn't it? Because you're not going to live your fullest life and go for it if you're always worried. Oh, what if, what if I die? So I think it's yeah, we've definitely got to.
There's our world right now.
What was that right now?
I was just saying, like, there's our world right now. Exactly what you're saying.
Mm. So it's a strange one, isn't it? So this matrix has rules. Do we know any of the rules? Do you know any of the rules?
Wow.
Because one of the my favorite sayings is,
there's a good question, Kendall.
yeah, one of my favorite sayings is, life is the only game, or the game of life is the only game where the rule is to learn what the rules are. We're not given a rule book, so
Yeah.
So do we know any of these rules like that are constants, I guess?
Richard Rose, right, the founder of the TAT Foundation, he had what he called some certain laws that were kind of energetic, not like laws of nature, but energetic laws that he talked about. Things like laws of the ladder, where you can always find somebody above you that can help you from where you are. There's always somebody below you that you can give help to, that you can bring up. And by this law, you're moving yourself up. He had another law that he called the contractor's law, that that if a job takes you an hour, actually getting a second person on the job will make the job quicker, but it won't take them 30 minutes. It'll take 20 minutes because we're operating on, we don't really know what the construct is. Is it a computer program? Is it a simulation? Is it a dream? Is it a mental construct? Is it a real physical reality? So we're still not really sure what it is. So since we don't really know what it is, the rules will be even harder to locate.
So I guess a good place to start would be, we have all these different theories of, is it a dream? Is it a mental construct? Is it a AI construct? What is similar between those different theories? I guess what runs through those theories that's a chord that, because that's kind of something that everyone is seeing, right? From whatever perspective they're in, they're seeing that in the reality, if we want to call it that.
Once you actually step back and say, yeah, this is a really good idea. Now, okay, do we know a rule of the realm? Like, really know one? Like, yeah, I can throw one out, like, the world responds to love, or something like that. Okay, that sounds nice, and I've had experiences like that, but could I say I guarantee that is constant? No.
Yeah, no.
So that wouldn't be a rule of the realm, for example.
Exactly.
No.
And
so
even like I said, I mean, you get back what you give. That's not a constant either. We know all the time, people love people and they don't get it given back to them, so that's not a constant rule either. But that's something that's put out as a constant rule, isn't it?
Right. And then there's the idea of, okay, does the rule apply to when we are living in the realm? So is the rule presented and responded while we're alive in the realm, or does the rules only get shown one way or another, or revealed one way or another after you die, and the rule plays itself out then? Like you say, what? Because I would assume that's what shamans are doing. What we call shamans are those who have, men and women who have somehow peeked behind the screen and have gained knowledge of the rules, or we'll say the code, if we want to call it that way, and then have found ways to alter pieces of the code. They're not altering the whole reality. They're just finding a way to just change a little bit of the code, and it changes a bit of the experience. So how do you find the code?
How do you find the code? Yeah. How do, shaman, they go on, spirit journeys and stuff, don't they? So that, which, I mean, does that mean they're literally going outside of the realm? And so they can sort of see it for what it is?
it's hard to say. I mean, I've always seen this world as like it's like we're in a bubble, a metaphorical bubble, that we are literally encased, almost like a snow globe. We're encased in this thing we think of as reality, and we are only experiencing the globe, but we get glimpses of outside the globe, almost like, I call it like uh, holes in the bubble, and that's where I see images like Sylvia in the Truman Show. She's from outside the bubble coming in to give him information he can't get on his own. David and Jennifer in Pleasantville, they're coming in to tell the characters that, hey, you're really not what you think you are, but they're coming. It's little things that come from the outside that can give us information if we're aware of it, but it will never come in a package we tend to like usually. It'll often come in a way that is disrupting or difficult to us, because it would have to shake us out of our normal something to kind of get us to go, wait a minute, I mean, that's possible. So maybe the the work the shamans are doing and the hardships they're putting themselves through is trying to meet this force that's there. You talk about this good AI, this force that is there. We have to figure out how to be like Adam and reach God's finger, right? And unfortunately, you can spin off in a lot of different directions, but something like this, where we just say, you know what, maybe we should just use our time to figure out how this place actually works. So one way or another, even if it doesn't change, even if this reality doesn't get any better, even if we all go off the cliff, we've at least, when we die, we've learned exactly what this place is, and we're not going to be surprised when the transition happens. Maybe that is the absolute greatest use we can use right now, is answering the questions finally of where are we and what are we, and just if we get that answer, the rest maybe won't matter.
Maybe that's why we, yeah.
Maybe.
Doesn't it
Well,
say?
it seems weird though, isn't it?
It is. I was just going to say
that you would be put into a realm that you'd be put into a realm that has rules, but you're not told what they are. That you're just shoved in this place, and your only job is to figure out the rules and then leave. That seems like a really stupid game. And if that turned out to be what this place is, I guarantee you, when I cross to the other side, I'm going to have some really serious questions for whoever set this up. I'm not going to No Light and seeing my grandmother. Someone's answering some questions. If that turns out to be anywhere close to that.
I did not agree to that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That seems kind of, pointless, doesn't it? So
pointless.
It's
like the people who try to say it's only a place of learning. You're here to learn, but in order for that to happen, some creator has made you ignorant and stuffed you into a place where you don't know anything about. And even if you had other lives, you're not, even if you learn something, you don't take it back into this life. So if you learn something and they put you back in another life, what was the point of learning it at all? That concept seems stupid.
It
so
does.
That you're here to learn sounds like to me from the deepest level, missing out on something that's really going on here. And I don't want to say it's a prison. I don't want to say it's a place of just total manifestation and possibility. I think there's a third answer to where we are, and we just don't see it.
So do you think that it's like, what are your thoughts on, obviously we've got archons and all this, is it, was it created one way and then it's been overtaken and changed, and that's how we sort of find ourselves here? What are your thoughts on that? Or
Well, that's a really good question. I've been looking into that for 20 years as well.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
The feeling is, at least, again, just an opinion from my time spent at the most ancient of sites. So when I've been to Giza or Dash or Abu Sir, when I'm at Teotihuacan in Mexico, it feels like it was a place in time where whatever we call archons didn't exist. That it feels like there was a time in this reality when that wasn't here. So if I go to even Luxor Temple or Karnak, I can feel that presence. It's still a nice energy there, but it doesn't, it's like I can't touch this place of an almost more pure, I don't want to say pure because that's wrong, but just a world without this parasite. So just from those experiences indicate to me there must have been a change in our realm at some point. Why or when, I don't know. certainly all the study of the history you and I both do, which is so important to answering questions about anything of this realm. If you're not going to study history, if you're not going to try to understand the past, you can't possibly understand then what this place is, because you've bubbled yourself, right? What do you think?
Yeah, I think everything points to it. I think we've even got the stories, you know, it's in the Bible and everything. I think definitely, but I agree with you that there was, you know, I think this realm was running fine, and it was different, and I think it was more of a, I don't know, not like a theme park. You know, I don't think it was a school. I think it was more, you know, come down and experience 3D and have fun, and you know, see, you know, that kind of experience. And then something's happened. Clearly, you know, I mean, you just have to look around to see that that's something that's not, you know, it's like you said before, these entities that don't have, you know, compassion and empathy, and don't seem to have creativity. I think these are the entities that have come in. How and why, we don't know. You know, we've got, you know, obviously the Gaia story and all these different ones, but they all do say a similar thing, don't they? They all say that it's an energy made by the same, you know, goddess, if you want, that created the earth, but it lost its connection, and so it's a pissed off little toddler basically who wants its mummy back, and it's just running around throwing stuff at people. I think that's kind of, yeah, maybe the story. But I mean, it's just such a big, you know, spiritual out there, you know, metaphysical kind of concept, isn't it? That I mean,
Right.
we're not supposed to think about those concepts, obviously, but you know, I always worry if it's like you said before, you know, are we getting too out there into realms that don't really have much bearing on us and that we can't change? But I mean, we are dealing with the repercussions, so I suppose it doesn't even
What
matter.
do you think about this idea that, sorry, what do you think of the idea that some have said that, like, in 2012, we actually changed to a different reality? That we're actually, the reality you and I live in now is not the reality we lived in as kids. And like, for me, I wish I was tracking the sun to know, when did the sun change from yellow to white? And I'm
Yeah.
wondering if that's one of these clues that actually we are in a slightly different reality, has actually changed.
Yeah, I've heard
What do you
that.
think?
I've definitely, I hear 2017 a lot, with regards to the sun, and also the moon. Apparently has like turned like 90 degrees when you look at it. Mandela effect, you know, obviously that's out there. And I mean, you know, clown world, look where we are. And then we have the whole narrative of Project Looking Glass, and there's that they were using that, and that they were literally trying to put out different scenarios, and they were playing with timelines to try and get their, you know, what they wanted out. Which, and in that story, there's an interview with a Russian guy, and who was brought in, and he says that they couldn't get past 2020 in this looking glass. They said it just all stopped. So maybe that's why 2020 was the year that was, well, maybe it wasn't even picked. Maybe it was just, he was basically saying it was a convergence point, and they were throwing out, because in Project Looking Glass, they were like trying to throw out different scenarios, and they would see what came back, so that they were trying to work out how to go forward. But they hit a point, and that's why they called this guy in, because everything they hit just would not go. As soon as it hit 2020, it all came out the exact same scenario, which is basically not what they wanted. The opposite to what they wanted is what came out 100% of the time. And it happened as soon as they hit past 2020. So is that a convergence point of some of is what they were saying? And of course, you know, we can talk Age of Aquarius, you know, all these kind of shifts in energy. So there is a lot of evidence that something's going on, that they're playing with timelines, that, you know, reality is definitely not as solid as we thought it was, as we were led to believe it was. And I mean, you know, even talking about the NPC characters, you know, is it that there used to be, you know, however many billion people here, but they've just played with it so much and created so many timelines you've got all these timelines that aren't populated, and so they have to fill them with NPCs. I don't know, just throwing that out there too.
Huh. This is fascinating right now. It's fascinating for, I hope it's fascinating for people listening, because it's fascinating for me. I'm wondering, this conversation with Project Looking Glass that you were going into, um, the point I was going to make was, could that be one of the rules of the realm? One of the rules of the realm is that there are certain things of this experience that are scripted, cannot be changed. Certain things of this reality are non-scripted and can be changed. Or let's put it this way. Does the character Campbell have 10,000 potential timelines, 10,000 potential grooves that you can choose and walk down? But like I say, the 10,001, the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, that one's not a groove, so you can't walk it. Maybe that's one of the rules that we have to see. We have choices, but the choices are somewhat limited and chosen already for us. Because I don't know about you, I've had so many experiences where there's just something happened and I knew it had to happen. There's no possible way I could avoid it. There's no possible way I could change it. There's no possible way it could be different. It's like I was going to have this experience exactly the way it played out, and good or bad, I'm stuck with it.
Yeah, yeah, I feel that all the time. I think everything pretty much happens for a reason. I mean, yeah, well, not everything, but yeah, no, so I think it's a good one. But do we choose to come down here? This is the question: do we choose our, like our traits, our skills, our body type, and all that? Because that would obviously, limit, if you want to use that word, us to certain grooves, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're 5 foot, you're not going to be a basketball player, kind of thing. So in that we are kind of predestined, but did we choose that? Is that part of the realm? And are these, is 2020 like, like on a game, that's like level one, you've reached the end of, level one. So basically everything in that, it's like when you go to the next level in the game, it's a different look, right? It all looks different. There's a few different rules, different bosses and stuff. Is that why everything's changing there, and we're at the end of a round, and people have to sort of level up to get ready, and so that's why 2020 is a non-changeable, but within the game before that, we had more, versatility with the rules. And you mentioned, what did you say? You said something that made me think of, like relics. Are there relics as well that are, because all these games, right, they have all these hidden things that you can get, and they give you special powers. And we know there's lots of other relics that are like keys to the realm, or that give you access to whatever, or help you change the rules. And that's another thing, right? It is all these crowns and scepters and
Right.
going too deep.
I mean, that was a big part of a section of the SS for the Germans, right? Was to
Yeah.
during the time of the 1930s, was to travel the world and find what they classified as religious artifacts that they claimed had certain powers, right? That was a big part of what, and not just them, because the United States was doing it too. I know Roosevelt sent certain people out searching for the Holy Grail. Every country was doing it. They were at that time searching. So it's also interesting why in the 1930s-ish, before the war started, is when not just Germany, every country was on a race to find relics. So it's also this sense of, we're certain people in the know at the highest levels, knowing another change was happening, and perhaps at these change points, like you say, in a video game, if you have the relic, you can avoid some of the turmoil of the change, and that's why at these turmoil points they go looking for them.
Yeah,
because we don't know. Maybe that's happening now again. A whole group of people is going looking for relics.
Definitely could be, because when you said the 30s, like we get this story of, the Egyptologists, and we know they were all going through Egypt, going through all the tombs and temples and everything. But we get this story of, oh no, they're just archaeologists, just rediscovering our past. But of course, we know about their stories. So that was probably, yeah, just a cover up. And they were just going through and grabbing what they could, having a look what was down there. And we see this,
Right.
you know, it's a very good point, because with archaeology, right, that's the deal. Unless you're, and not just unless you're an archaeologist, unless you're the right archaeologist who someone has said can go into that site, then you can't go in there. And what happens in there and what they bring out, we're never privy to. We know that. So yeah, is this, yeah, do they just do it at certain times? Has it been going on the whole time? And have they found it? Because I know they were after the Spear of Destiny, weren't they?
Yeah. Well, like I don't think I've shared this story with you before, but on my second trip to Egypt back in 2006, I guess it was, there's a particular area of the Giza Plateau just off from the second pyramid in the Mastaba tombs. It's really quiet, really nice. There's some really nice little tombs that nobody goes to, and it's a place I like to go just to even just sit and meditate. And as I walked down in there, there were two guys standing with machine guns in this area. But you never find soldiers on the Giza Plateau. And okay, I just wanted to go and sit. I didn't really care, and I just thought I my little bit of Arabic and whatever I could get past them. And as soon as I started moving, they pointed the guns at me, like very clearly, "You're not supposed to be here," kind of thing. So I turned around, just kind of okay. I turned around, and I went to Luxor a couple days later, and I have a friend in Luxor who is kind of connected to what's going on in Egypt, so I kind of trust his opinion. I asked him. I told him the story. He said, "Oh yeah, I heard about that. They had found what they thought was a time machine in one of the tombs in that area around that day, and they were still deciding, do they want to take it up and like take it to like the museum or wherever and try to operate it somewhere else, or do they want to try to activate it there in the plateau?" And there was a big discussion going on of what to do with it, and where to put it. And I don't think this guy was just humoring me. He may have had some sort of useful information. So
A time machine.
yeah.
And when was that? 2013? Is that
2006
Oh,
is when
2006. Maybe they got it going in
2006.
2012 and started changing the timelines. But this is the thing, you know, we're told there's no tech out there, but clearly, I mean, pretty much every single movie they make that's got anything to do with, you know, ancient sites or archaeology, always got relics, magical things in there, you know, ancient technology, every single time. So, you know, for people to say, well, that's just crappy. I mean, as we know, they tell us the truth in the movies and the lies on the news. So, yeah, wow. Who knows? Because obviously we have the stories of the Vimanas as well, right? In the Middle East, they reckon they found a Vimana, you know, so there's lots of stuff out there. So, because the other thing is with the 30s is, you know, the Germans had all this tech, didn't they? Suddenly we had rockets. They had the bell, what was it called? Like that levitating bell thing. You know, all this tech that had come from nowhere. Right. And it all turned up just after they went around the world looking for ancient tech. How bizarre.
Right. So it does make you wonder. Again, if we step back, which is the point of this, is what are the rules of the realm? What are the rules of the realm? Because if we can know the rules, we have a better chance of navigating here one way or another, or at least not wasting our energy, let's put it that way, on things we can't change, and focus our energy on what we can change and what we can do. Because if we take this down from sort of the heady philosophical place we are and take it down to, you know, the crunch point. Somebody's getting ready to lose their job because they're not going to do what someone in authority tells them to do, and now they're not paying their mortgage and they can't feed their kids if they do it. So what does our whole conversation have to deal with someone in a situation like that?
Yeah.
And for me, I guess it's then trying to take this to see, at least on one level, it's what can you learn about this realm that you've been in your whole that you probably haven't thought too much about, that you probably we've all just gone along with things. Can we use a really difficult, challenging, messy situation? Can we find 10 minutes in it to kind of be able to step back and go, what is this telling me on a bigger level about stuff I never thought about?
And maybe we're getting told the rules, we're just ignoring them. You know, it's like, so we're too busy.
Yeah.
You know, it's like stopping to smell the roses, right? And of course, that's what society is designed for. I saw a meme the other day, and what did it say? It said, becoming an adult is really just not deciding when you can go to sleep, which I thought was perfect. You know, once you're an adult, right, you don't. And it's because you have to get up at the same time. You have to go to your work. You have to follow the rules, right? And on that as well, someone else mentioned that they're always, they're never on time. They're always early or late, because they said, if you're on time, the archons can see, you know, they're tracking you. You're fully in, you're where you're supposed to be at the time you're supposed to be there. So they were like, well, let's get there either early or late and not comply to the program and try and push it off a bit. So that's something else too.
That's brilliant. That goes back right to the beginning, what I was talking about earlier, of just doing something
Jumping in
randomly different that no one was expecting. Yeah, that's a good, and it's good that they would be not always say, oh, well, I'll always come late then.
Yeah.
Because then you would be able to be tracked. You know, you'll always be late. If you totally change, sometimes I'm early, sometimes I'm late, then you are totally unpredictable. And once you become unpredictable, yes, you are hard to track, and you are hard to track. You yourself is hard to track, because then if you can even do, this is the hard part of it, is to be able to say, I've got an appointment at 9 o'clock, and I don't know yet if I'm going to go early or late. I'm not even deciding myself. I just know one of them will happen based on how I'm going to go from here to there. Now you've become unpredictable to yourself.
Yeah, and just sit there, because what will happen is you'll get an urge. You know, before you know it, you'll be standing up with your keys going, oh, I guess it's time to go. You will get that. So that's yeah.
Right.
And so I guess, you know, is that one of the rules, to not obey the rules? You know, if you step outside the rules, do you have more power and more, you know, over the matrix, or at least more objectivity?
Yeah, I'd at least say from my own experience of the years when I did that, 'cause I did that for about 2 years straight, and I caught more things that were going on, or more messages, or more insights, or more whatever, because I was more alert, because I was never knowing what I would necessarily do. That doesn't mean there were more messages, like you say. They may always be here. The rules might always be presented to us. We're just ignoring them. And part of the way not to ignore them is to kind of stop following our normal patterns and routines, because as long as we're in the pattern and the routine, we're in the record groove, and we're not seeing anything, but we're not going to hear anything but the song on the record. So yeah.
So is it, you know, because everything's flipped, right? We get this whole, you know, that they flip it and invert everything. So is the reality that if you don't follow their rules, you get rewarded? Like you said, you got insights when you weren't following the program and the rules. So is that the trick? Like when you don't, then you get your rewards, and then they build up in so you can get a picture of where you really are. But when you do what you're told and you think you're doing the right thing, that's the wrong thing. And so you don't learn anything. You just end up going around in circles. So I don't know. Yeah, is one
or
of
at
the
least
rules.
it's maybe not the wrong thing. It's just
Yeah.
it's just the thing you've always done. So if you're doing what you've always done, what's that saying? The other saying, if you do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always got.
Yeah.
So you'll never get anything. At least you know you're not going to get anything new or different. Then you have to. One of the weirdest experiences I had is it wasn't Halloween, but we all dressed up in like we were going to some like 1950s or 60s concert or something. So people were dressing up in older clothes, but I chose to dress up like Tony Clifton, Andy Kaufman's alter ego.
I don't know Tony Clifton.
Yeah, he was a character that Kaufman created basically just to annoy the audience. It was
Right.
to try to make the
Andy
audience as
Kaufman.
angry
Okay.
as possible.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. So I dressed up as Tony Clifton, but to do it, I had to act like Tony Clifton. And at the beginning, it was really hard to be an asshole constantly, because that's kind of what you were doing. You were just constantly, but as it went on, as I kind of got past a certain point of the mind telling me you can't do this, you have to be nice, you have to act a certain way, all of a sudden I became Tony Clifton. And now I wasn't just being an asshole, I was being speaking honestly. There were some people at this concert who were sitting sort of near a pole and they couldn't see things properly. So of course Tony Clifton has to start screaming, "Who gave these people these piece of crap seats? These are crappy seats. These people should be moved instantaneously to someplace they can see." And of course the people started saying, "Yeah, these are crappy seats. We shouldn't be sitting here. We should." And I started realizing, holy cow, eventually when you cross the barrier, the truth starts to come out. The truth will start to come out of what the things you would never say yourself, never present yourself, because you're censoring your own mind. Once I got rid of that by playing this character, truth just started coming out of me, and it was like a nonstop. So it was, again, playing some of these little games reveals how boxed in we are without even thinking we're boxed in.
Definitely. Yeah, well, I was on a round table the other day and someone started singing a song and he's like, "Yeah, come on, everyone sing." And everyone was like, "What do I do?" Because we just taught, everyone wanted to sing. It's like, yeah, but we're taught, oh, you can't do that. You can't sing, you don't sound good and all this kind of stuff. But I guarantee if everyone had just gone, it would have been a much better vibe and, be more entertaining to watch. So, I mean, maybe is not obeying the rules, is that a rule? Is that, because that story you just sort of gave kind of sounded like, when because that's clearly stepping outside the rules, because you're no longer acting as your own persona, and you're affecting other people, and getting responses, and even to the point that they're getting new ideas. Hang on, these are bad seats. Is that one of the rules then, to not obey the rules?
Yeah, or
something along those lines. It wouldn't be that.
I know that's been, yeah, I know that was always a powerful thing whenever me or someone else I know put themselves in character for a while and were 100% in character. And it was always good, I found, to play the opposite. If someone was really rich, spend a day be living as a really poor person, actually sit on the street, beg for money, no resources for the day. You have to actually live out your life in a completely opposite way. Or, if you're very shy, become the opposite, become, as outgoing as you possibly can for that day, partially to show your mind that I didn't die. The persona that I've been living my whole life partially is there because I felt, if I don't live this way, what will happen to me? Well, I did the opposite and nothing happened. I had some other experiences. And now all of a sudden we can start to break this construct, this persona we've believed ourselves to be. Who knows, maybe that's a rule, right? As long as you believe your persona, as long as you believe your mind, you're locked into something. The unlocking of the key is to just stop being the persona.
Well, you just said it's like, when you do things, you remind yourself that you're alive. Well, why would the universe talk to dead people?
Yeah.
Is that part of the trick? You've got to say, yes, hello, I'm actually alive down here, not an NPC. And it'll go, oh, okay, well, I'll talk to you. But I think so. One of the main things we're hitting on here is to disrupt the matrix, should we say? Just to act in a not disruptive, but to disrupt the program. Just little things, be a glitch, jump up and down or whatever it may be, and don't obey the rules. But definitely, guys, leave us your rules below and have a bit of a think about them before you write them down. Is it something that is constant? that would be constant to someone, you know, living in, you know, the North Pole and someone living in, you know, Africa, because it needs to be a constant realm rule, right? Rule of the realm. So have a think about that, guys, and definitely leave us your rules below, and we'll go through them and see if we can't sort of take this a bit further. I didn't actually expect this conversation to go this way, but it's definitely good.
And also, if you're going to try that sitting chair experiment, let us know if something happens from doing that. I would be really curious if you an energy gets generated from it. I mean, not just sitting, because I've done lots of things where I've sat with another person, but somehow where you're focused on that vesica piscis, that you're not focused on the person, you're focused on that midpoint. I wonder if something energetically happens. Let us know that too. I would be really curious.
Definitely. And quickly, Howdie, what's your website now? It's Free Voice, is that right? .io.
Then if someone's interested in a book, you can always find me on Amazon, and then at least know what books you like, and then go buy it from a different retailer if you choose to do that.
Yes, we'll leave all the links below. Howdie, if you didn't know, he's written a few books. He's done one on the world fairs as well, if you're into my other channels and history and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, interesting. So weird, all these people knowing who I am. I'm still getting alrighty, yes. Well, thank you very much, Howdie, for your time. We'll definitely revisit this, get onto rules of the realm. We'll leave all Howdie's links below. Definitely go check him out, subscribe to his channel and everything, have a look at his books. And yeah, thanks for joining us, and have an amazing day, Howdie.
Thanks, my friend. And as always, you're doing really good work, Campbell. And I hope in parts of this didn't feel like I was cutting you off. I'm just, for those who don't know, it's really early in the morning here, and I'm still just firing down coffee, and my mind isn't fully active. So next time, if by chance someone caught that, I'll be much more clear.
No, it was absolutely perfect, mate. You're a scholar and a gentleman. So thanks for your time, and yeah, stay warm, and I'll be in touch soon, and we'll get back with more rules of the realm.